Da, da. Hey, we're live. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning into the BAMF podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lafferty, and these are my serial killer glasses. And tonight, we are going to learn how to roleplay online through the gentle but firm instructional methods of Miss Alice Peng. How you doing, Alice?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And right up here on the Brady Bunch grid is Mr. Jacob Blackman. How you doing, Jacob?
Hello, glad to be here.
And you have some experience with the subject as well, correct?
I have a little experience. I've used Roll20 in the past as a player.
Okay. And over here is Mr. Sean Noak. He is the author of The After, the soon-to-be hit setting for Savage Worlds. And thanks for joining us, Sean. Appreciate it. And we are actually doing this at your request, so you can try to figure out which is better for your group, Fantasy Grounds or Roll20, right?
Right. Yeah. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate you putting this together. So yeah, I'm a really long-time role player, and of course, right now nobody can get together. All of my groups are on hiatus.
Okay.
So I was hoping to come to everyone's rescue with this cool online solution. I know all kinds of things about gaming at the table, and very, very little about gaming online.
Okay. Well, I do gaming online frequently. I do about 4 to 5 days out of the week, and I've been doing it for many years. There are a number of options. Obviously, the two most popular options for a VTT are going to be Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds. We can go over some pros and cons of each.
Alice, you are confusing me with your casual loose use of acronyms. What does VTT stand for?
VTT stands for Virtual Tabletop, and we'll also cover. And once again, this is only if you feel that you have the need for Virtual Tabletop. There are other methods as well, which I can go into with you later on. So before I actually give you a quick tutorial on how these two platforms work, I'll just go over some differences. So first of all, Roll20, one of the benefits of it is that it is free for a basic level to use. There are paid levels. And there is a very large number of systems that are programmed in for character sheets where people can just have an integrated character sheets where they can interact with the character sheet and roll dice very easily.
What kind of systems would those be?
Well, they have like 100+ systems, I think, last time I checked. But I will go to settings and game settings, and I will start listing some. They have a lot of the Powered by the Apocalypse character sheets. So, character sheets, Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, 13th Age, Chronicles of Darkness, goes on and on, Fate, Pathfinder, Scum and Villainy. I'm just randomly scrolling and grabbing random words.
Are any of the 2D20 systems on there?
Let me double check.
What were you guys wanting to play, Sean? Was it John Carter?
One of my groups is into John Carter. And what's funny is there are 2D20 sheets up there for Conan and for Star Trek, but not for John Carter.
Correct. There are for 2D20 Conan, Infinity, and Star Trek.
Right. And then I was looking to start up a low-level D&D game just to pass the time with some of my friends that are kind of new to the hobby. So I really don't want this to be intimidating for them.
So what it comes down to is, so let's keep going with the pros and cons, and then we'll talk about what your needs are and then find a suitable benefit for you. So once again, it is free to use on a basic level. There's paid levels. There's a lot of systems that it does cover. There are systems it doesn't cover. If you have XML experience, you can create sheets for the systems it doesn't cover. However, and you can play with it if you are, as the GM, are not online. Players can come on, work on their characters, and do anything they need throughout the week because it is cloud server based on their end. Now, let's go over real quick to Fantasy Grounds. Fantasy Grounds, there's two versions right now. One's in beta. Fantasy Grounds 2, which is the version that's been out for a long time, it is completely centralized as the GM being the server. Fantasy Grounds does cost money. You can pay for subscription model, or you can pay for a license to use it forever. An ultimate license GM will allow demo level users, meaning people who don't pay for the game, for the program, to log in and play, as well as people with the basic level. If you are only a basic level paid as a GM, then everyone has to have a paid account, or otherwise nobody can be using a demo. For Fantasy Grounds, for my personal belief, I find it more intuitive. But it is hosted on the server side, and therefore it is dependent on how well your system runs. It also means that if you are not online, they can't go and edit their character and get stuff ready for game. Fantasy Grounds 2, while it is still server-based, they are now, hold on. So Fantasy Grounds, one other thing about Fantasy Grounds is that if you have to deal with port forwarding and such like that, you have to have a little bit of tech expertise because you are the server end. There is a port 1802 that needs to be port forwarded to your system. Now, if you're using certain types of VPN or firewalls and such like that, or if someone else is controlling it, you can't get that over to you. That's where Fantasy Grounds Unity comes in. Fantasy Grounds Unity allows for GMs, while they're still server side, to cloud host, and therefore it does not require port forwarding anymore. It also is much faster because while FG2 was 32-bit, Fantasy Grounds Unity will be 64-bit. And Brandon and I have already tested it, and it is like 30 times faster. It is so much faster and so much nicer on that end. So, my question, though, before we go further, is how much of a battle map do you feel that you need? What is it that you're looking for? Are you looking for just dice or battle mat and such like that?
The group of players that I'm targeting to run a game for are used to my home setup where I'm using all kinds of Dwarven Forge and fancy minis and stuff. So I would at least like to get some kind of map up where they can see it. It'll help them a lot.
Okay, absolutely. So let's go with, I'm going to open up a demo game and I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go to Roll20 first. I started a demo game. So going to my demo game, you'll see that this is after I created the demo game. You can put a backdrop PNG that people can see for the game. You can set up for looking for players. You can then go to game settings. The reason I want you to see game settings is we're going to scroll down, and here you'll see character sheet template. So if midstream you need to change systems, you can always go and change the system to a different system. So you were talking 2D20 games. So let's go to 2D20 and let's grab Conan. That's the Conan sheet. Okay? And I'm going to save that, save changes, and we're going to go into the tabletop. So we go back to my games, and we go back to my games. Let's go. Oops, I should have just hit launch. But so once again, this is here. And you can tag what you're playing and such. And you can actually start forum threads. So you can post a topic and have your players talk. And that's another important thing. Here you would put in the description of your game. So that's the basic entry where you go in. Also, here's the invite players button. You'll invite them in. You'll need their tag, and then they can join. But let's go into the tabletop itself. The other thing I will tell you right now, Roll20 has some loading issues, and it can be sluggish as heck. And that's the unfortunate truth of it. So it does have built-in video and audio, but the first thing that most people recommend is going into the setting, the gear here, and turning that frick off. The reason being is that once again, it is so sluggish and laggish that the audio and video quality of it is very subpar. So you would use something like Hangout or StreamYards if that's what you want to do, or in our case, we primarily use Discord and Zoom to do audio and video. One recommendation, everyone's different. I highly recommend making sure that everyone is set up for video. Before we get into this, because you're talking about translating from players who are playing in a real life situation to online, getting them to get headset, getting it on the audio so that no audio from the environments is getting onto the game. and getting everyone into onto a camera is so much more helpful because you can actually see visual cues and start getting used to when it's good to talk, because we are all about body language. Plus, role-playing is, in my opinion, at least 30% about body language, at least. So when you're doing just audio, you'll find that people cross-talk more. There's a lot of stuff missed by comparison. Just like, when you go from text to speech, there's a level of nuance that changes. Well, from speech to video, there's a big jump, and the disconnect is much less. So to here, there are a couple ways for. So I have this currently set up for fog of war. This is why it's gray. So this little icon would be fog of war, and then I can use this and just reveal, and then that's what the players will see. If you pay for Roll20, you can get something called dynamic lighting. I don't have a paid account because I primarily use other stuff. You have a couple different ways of rolling dice. So let's say roll 1d20 right there, and you can see that I just popped up a roll 1d20. The other way people can do it is by this. You can see, hey, look, I want to roll dice. I roll 2d20 right there. Or I can use this interface, hit roll d20, or I can do d20 plus 7. And also, like for the type command, you can also R or roll 2d20. Let's go to 1d20 plus 7. And so you can do that as well. You can also send the roll only to the GM by /GM roll. And so the formula is pretty easy. It's a pretty easy syntax to get. How you would put stuff on, oops, let's not go to uploads, let's go to premium assets. So as I said, they'll give you some stuff for free when you start. The marketplace purchases, I have nothing there, but free assets, here's some stuff. So let's go and grab a Samurai Spearman. Hey, look, there's a miniature. Oops, let's reveal this area. And let's go to, so this little arrow button here, that's what you do to select things. And what I'm going to show you right now is something that always confuses people. I am going to show you how to run initiative. So to run initiative, you'll want to open up the initiative tracker, which is the clock. Then you're going to right-click on the miniature and click Add Turn. When you add turn, at that point, when people can, if the players associate, and we'll talk about how to associate shortly. If the person is associated, that when they roll the d20 onto the spot or roll an initiative that's programmed in, it'll automatically go to the tracker. If not, you can always just type it in manually. There you go. So let's go to characters. So in journal, we have on the journal tab, which is the third tab. Oh, and first tab is the talk tab. Second tab is the graphic tab. And there's premium assets and then my library. I should go over my library a little bit. My library is where you're going to upload your stuff. So hit upload and you put in a map and then you'll drop it. Actually, I don't have anything right now that isn't licensed to other use. So I can't show you anything right now for that. But yeah, you just grab a battle mat, upload, and you can then drag and drop it. In fact, I'll go to premium and let's see if we can find something that's battle map-ish to show you. Oh, mega pack. Well, here's a mega maps pack. So maybe there's some. Yep. So drag and let's go on to here. And then we can resize this to how many grids we want. Now, this gets to an interesting thing. We want this to be on the GM layer because that otherwise is not going to be on the correct layer. So this token is on the player layer, on the token layer. You can also put the map on the map layer, which that's also doable. But as long as it's on one of your other layers, you're not going to have interaction issues and the grid will show up. You just don't ever want that on the any maps on the token layer. Okay? So let's go and add a character. So we're going to add a character. And And so it's going to, when you create a character, it's automatically going to give you a random name. And since I don't have any players here, I can't really show you. I should have made someone jump in with me. But you can then select a token. There you go. And so that token is now associated with this character sheet. If you have a player, you'll also then have the option in the player to in the player's journal, add that player. That's true. I am my own player. So I put Lala Twiddle as the player. Therefore, other than the GM, the player listed will be able to see this character sheet. Okay?
Hey, Alice.
Now,
I just logged into Roll20 just now. If you want to invite me, if you want to show that.
absolutely happy to. So let's go and back out of this. Exit game.
I didn't just didn't just shut down your presentation, did I?
Oh, no problem. I don't have anything scripted. I'm just walking through as I can. So no problem at all. So go to demo and invite players. I'm going to actually give you the link because I don't want to invite your email address.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
let's go to Am I in the?
You're expecting a cascade of emails from crazed fans, Mike?
So there it is in our
Man,
private
you
chat.
never know.
One never knows.
There it is in our private chat.
Some of the groupies that you can get when you're in this business, it's crazy.
You
And
get groupies?
some of the trolls too. Some of the trolls.
Well, and you get that horrible crossover between groupies and trolls. It can be
Yeah.
interesting.
I have no groupies. I have had trolls, but I've had no groupies.
Oh, really? Come on. I thought that. Okay. So now you can see down at the bottom, Mike and I are both showing. Down at the bottom, there's Lala Twiddle and there's Mike. Let's go over and show you one more trick because that gets pretty big and annoying, right? So go into the gears and then scroll down to video player avatar size and let's go to names only. Or let's go to small. Isn't that much nicer than the huge? So let's go to names only. Now we know people are there and we're good, okay? So, Sean, is that you in here with me as well?
Yep, that's me.
Okay, great. So, watching this, let's go and add a character sheet. And this character sheet, I'm going to assign to you. And we can get a token and set that up if you'd like later. So now if you go into that journal section, you'll see a character sheet for yourself that you can input. And I'll give one to Mike because you're all special.
You know what's interesting is over on the left, I see the token, but I don't see the map.
Because that's true. I put it in the GM layer. So
anything in the GM layer is not visible
is only for the GM, correct. So what
okay.
I need to do is put it into the map layer.
So you could stick monsters there and then pop them out when it's time.
So the thing is that going from the GM layer. So let's go to GM layer.
Sean, it sounds like your go old symbiote has taken control of your person. Is it?
So when you go to the and yes, you can. So you go to the GM info layer by using this button here, and now I have this here, and I'm going to go and pop this to the map layer because that's what I intended it. My bad on that. See, easy fix. So it's pretty intuitive, right? So now you see the token and the map, correct?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Okay, so now let's go back here, and what we're going to do is I'm going to give each of you a token because we're going to play with initiatives just a little bit. So let's say one of you is going to be a dwarf fighter. I'll grab a dwarf fighter token, and I will grab a, let's see. I'll grab a lizardman warrior for the third token. We're going to be fun. Okay, so I have, let's see, this one is my character, I believe. Yep, I haven't named her. Then this one is going to be, this one is you. Cool. So let's go to edit. And when I edit, this one is Mike's. So I'll select the dwarf on the map, and then I hit use selected token. And Mike's now the dwarf. So Mike should now be able to move his dwarf.
Okay,
And then
let's
go
try
to
that.
you. Yep. And I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to go and select your lizard man. Sorry, I need to open this bigger so I can get to the lizard man. Space is a premium in VTTs at times. So select the lizard man, and click select a token. You select a token, and bingo. So
Will
you
those
should have.
controls pop out of the main window so you could use them on a second monitor?
So for character sheets, this button will pop it out into a second window,
Nice.
and you'll be able to have a character sheet on the secondary window. Okay?
Thanks.
You're welcome. So now let's go to initiatives, and we're going to add initiatives. Add turn, and add turn. So now if you roll initiative onto your token, though you need to actually program your actual initiative, but if you roll initiative onto the token, you should be able to get it directly onto the mark, the tracker. And let's see here. But you need to make sure, and I forget I haven't played Conan in quite some time, so I forget what is considered initiative in that game.
I don't think Conan has an initiative roll. If I remember rightly, the players go first.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And the GM has to roll or spend threat to the bad guys in the mix.
I remember because it's a pass along one. Yeah, it's been a while. I apologize. But yeah, so you can at that point, mark initiative order as you need to as you go along. Easy.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
All right, so this is my little dwarf warrior up here with the red cape or whatever.
That's your little dwarf.
So I left click on him.
No, that's not the dwarf. The dwarf is over here. The dwarf is the farthest left, the one that I have selected right now.
Oh, I didn't even see him. Okay.
Yeah, he's a little. Let me go and make sure he's on the right layer. Nope, he's on the token layer. That's why they dropped onto the token layer. There you go. I moved them to the token layer for you. So the dwarf
Much
on the
like
far
being
left.
an artist, I always have to make sure you're on the right layer.
Yes. Yes.
So
it is.
how would I move my little guy then? I click on him and then just drag, or?
You should be able to click and drag.
All right, so I click and I see the number of feet and squares I'm moving.
Oh, that's because I have a setting. Yep. So click that. Yes. And I'm gonna select the amount of feet, and I do not remember how to toggle that off. What it is right now is you are asking for permission.
Okay, so I'm going to try to move 10 feet up and to the right. 10 feet, 2 squares, and I click, and nothing happens.
And what's interesting is, as a second player, I'm seeing what you're doing as well. I can see that 10-foot pop up.
Yeah, and I'm going to just see, there should be an easy way to give you authorization, because you should have been given authorization to deal with your character. So player permissions, there it is, name, and yeah, you should be able to move it. Well, that's interesting. I feel awkward. Yeah, you should be able to move it. You are which one? Did I give you the right character? Bio info, and let me go check. That's your dwarf. Yep. Yeah, you should be able to move it. But you've set, yeah, what we have right now is set for approval. So you would say you want to go there, and the GM would move it there. There is a way to set it, and
Oh wait, he just moved.
Yeah, I just moved him for you because I gave you approval.
Okay, all right.
And I need to go and find how to not require approval, because I haven't done that in a long time. So I apologize. That's one little lapse in my understanding. Let me make a note of that so I can remember to look that up and learn that.
No, it's cool. I was just all right, cool.
So as you can see, Sean, there's plenty here to work with. Is there anything specific you want me to show you before we move on to Fantasy Grounds a bit?
Well, I wouldn't mind learning maybe a little bit more about how the integrated roles on the character sheets work.
Okay, so let's go to open a character. So the theory is that when you put in abilities and such like that, you will be able to roll right from your character sheet. So here, I've got this little D20 here, and the different ones have, the different sheets have different systems and such, so it'll just be dependent on the system. But the dice, once you have your character sheet inputted on what your character has skills in, blah, 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 you should be able to click various spots on the character sheet and have stuff roll. And it'll tell you in the chat. So I just rolled an acrobatic skill and rolled that, as you can see. And so that's what the integration does, is it allows for people to have everything in their character sheets and then be able to click a skill and have it roll.
Is it
Or click a
advanced?
power.
Is it advanced enough that it could, like in Dungeons and Dragons, check your hit roll against an armor class and apply
Yes.
damage to the enemy?
Absolutely. So what it is if you've got your enemy linked, you would need to, you were watching me link all the character sheets to the players, you'll have to link all the character sheets to the monster tokens. And when you link them to the token, all they have to do is drag, so they have to click the icon, click the monster they want to do, then click their roll, and it'll then check against the AC.
Okay, cool.
But they have to have it selected. Now, here's the thing. This is where Fantasy Grounds is going to be more intuitive, because in Fantasy Grounds, I can literally drag physical-looking dice onto the monster token and drop, and then it'll roll. So I personally like that more than trying to, ephemerally say, I'm clicking this, then I'm going to go do my dice rolling thingy and hope that it works. Because when you're dropping it onto a token, then that's associated with that token.
Did we want to take a look at Fantasy Grounds too, or are we cool with sticking with Roll20 tonight, Sean?
Yeah, I think we should look at both.
Okay. So
I've never seen Fantasy Grounds at all.
Okay. Anything else you want to learn?
Either.
Oh, Brandon and I both have ultimate licenses for the old FG, and we were Kickstarter backers for ultimate licenses across our board for the Unity as well. So we have multiple ultimate licenses to run whenever we need to.
Hey, Jacob, do you have a preference on these between Fantasy Grounds and Roll20?
You're muted.
Sorry, I've only ever used Roll20. I have no experience with Fantasy Grounds, so this will be a new experience for me.
Okay, so no more questions for basic GMing, basic running on Roll20. We're going to move on to Fantasy Grounds. So stop sharing for a moment. Do you have any questions while I load Fantasy Grounds up?
Do you traditionally, for the Roll20 icons, do you usually make your own icons and maps, or do you engage in their marketplace where they have maps and tokens for sale?
For me, as you saw, I use a free account. I don't engage in their marketplace for a variety of reasons. I have my own tokens that I bought through Devon Knight elsewhere, Devon Knight being those top-down ones. I have most of the Devon Knight packs from years ago. I actually lost them. So that's one nice thing, is if you buy it from a marketplace, you can use it there. The thing is, with me going from different virtual tabletop surfaces, I don't want to be locked into it being there. And so I run the risk of losing a bunch of my packs when I have a hard drive crash 2 years ago. But let's go. And so I will share this with you before I go into it. So this is going to be the Fantasy Grounds that's getting phased out. We're going to start with that. So this is where we're going to go. So we're going to create a campaign. And let me just see. Yeah, I've got my Ruins of Aslan. So let's load the Ruins of Aslan. And I've got one of my old coded libraries. So let's go and load that. Oh, okay, cool.
I know that Pathfinder considers Fantasy Grounds to be their official place, and they've uploaded all their maps and everything there. Have you been playing with those at all?
Sorry, who considers it their official place?
Paizo for Pathfinder.
I'm about to load the Ruins of Aslan that I specifically officially paid for. So yes, we have bought a few. And Fantasy Grounds, this is the 32-bit. It runs a lot slower on the load. And I might want to just go to the 64-bit and show you guys. That might work better. Let's do that. Because this one's getting phased out, and the new one works basically the same way as the old one, but the new one works faster and such like that. So let's just go directly there. So let's go and share. Give me a second to let it load. And there we go. So FG2 Fantasy Grounds Unity looks like this, and my ultimate little license. So I'm going to host a game, and we're going to host a sample 5e game. How's that? I'm going to set the name as Lala for GM, and I'm going to set the password as BAMF demo. So I'm going to set this to cloud. Once again, this is so that we don't have to worry about the hurdles of the tech issues of LAN and blah, blah, blah. Private. I can set it to private, which means if I set it to private, people will have to look me up by the GM name or by a specific IP of where it's originating from. But I'm going to leave this as public. and I just did something that I shouldn't have done, but I revealed more information about my account than I intended to over there. I forgot about that being a thing. So
Are
we're
you going to
gonna
be
look
able to edit that later?
I would like Mike to edit it to blur something out later if Mike's okay with that.
Usually, what we can do with YouTube is just I can find the give me the timestamp where it shows up, and we can just edit it out.
Cool. So let's figure out what timestamp that was.
Okay.
I just typed what I want you to remove on
Yep.
my
Gotcha.
Okay. Thank you very much. If you
Oh,
can try. Oh, we're at the 30 minute mark, so it should be about the 30-minute mark.
Okay, gotcha. It'll probably be
Yeah.
tomorrow, and I'll just put this on unlisted, or you can put it on unlisted tonight.
Thank you. I am security conscious, and so while most people it wouldn't be a big deal, for me it is.
Yeah, that's
And
cool.
it's taking a little longer to load today than I expected. Oh, I know why. I'm kind of straining my beast of a system right now because I'm rendering a video for another project and doing one other thing. So it is running slower than it normally would. I apologize. I'm not going to stop the render though. Yeah, because my render's got an hour left. I expected it to be done before we started this, so I apologize for this being slow. Usually this would be done loading by now, I swear.
So even though it's cloud-based, it does a lot of the work on your local system?
Like I said, yes, this is server side. So while Roll20 is an external server, external cloud server, meaning anybody can be on at any time on your game, this is going to be that the GM has to have the game open. So you are the server, and only the connection is cloud-based.
Ah, I see.
Okay, I really should not be rendering. I apologize. Do you have any questions while we wait for this to load? And I can answer while I wait for that.
Well, you've mentioned several times that you felt that this was worth dropping money on, not just once, but also again in a more recent Kickstarter. Why is this so strongly preferred for you over Roll20?
It feels much more like a tabletop, and it's much more intuitive for most players. I've GM'd for a number of tables, and Brandon's GM'd for a number of tables for Roll20 as well as for Fantasy Grounds. And we've had a number of games where we transferred from Roll20 to Fantasy Grounds and back and forth for people to try. Almost unanimously, we hear Fantasy Grounds is easier, guys. Let's just stick with Fantasy Grounds. So first off, let's go to Advantage Roll, and I can just grab the dice and roll it into the chat. There you go. I can just grab the die and roll it into chat. I can add my modifier as I want. So I want +5, grab, and drop. This feels a lot more tabletop-like already. It feels like you're in a dice box, right? So for maps, let's go and open up that map. Here is, and you can do this in Roll20 as well, but the limitation on the Roll20 version is that you have to be at the highest paid tier, I believe, to do something similar to this. So I've never actually played with it, but in Fantasy Grounds, you have these tagging things. And so what it is you drag and drop a pin associated with one of your encounters and onto this. And so by dragging and dropping the pin, I can click that pin and open this and have my encounter. If you, so Fantasy Grounds has no audio video compatibility at all. You have to do all external. But what I'm going to show you at that point is I've now opened up the command room where these 4 tokens are. I have marked box text. I can click the box text, and it'll immediately pop it into chat. And again, real estate is an issue. For me, I run on 3 monitors. My video for gaming, talking to people, is going to be on my TV. And then I have 2 screens when I'm GMing that are going to be filled with stuff. But you can see that I can read the box text to people as well as just click and go. There's the box text for everyone. And there is that. And there's some abilities to edit and modify and change stuff. We can mask, add a mask, so I can hide area, and then I hide this area from people. Or I can show area, and I can just reveal everything from people. The this is the play layer. This section here is actually new to Fantasy Grounds Unity. It used to be a slightly different toolbar. But a lot of the same similar functionalities for PC character sheets. So let's go and do that. The character sheets are also, in my opinion, more intuitive. So it's once again integrated. I can grab the die and drop it. So I would just ask for, let's say, a dex check. I grabbed my dex and I rolled it. There you go. And you're not here. Are you guys hearing the dice rolling? Because I don't know if my audio is sharing.
I'm not hearing it, but the fact is, it's still really cool because yeah, the just watching just knowing how Roll20 worked and seeing you just grab the dice and it works a lot better here.
Yes.
What systems can you do on Fantasy Grounds? Same kind of assortment you have on Roll20, or smaller, or greater, or?
So it's definitely more limited on Roll20. Than Roll20. Roll20 has a lot of systems, whereas Fantasy Grounds has a handful. And for any systems that it doesn't have, you're going to have to find a fan group that is doing it. For Fantasy Grounds, before they went Unity, there was a lot of fan support doing a wide variety of systems, so you could find a lot of different ones. Some of them aren't even on Roll20, but are on Fantasy Grounds. So it really just depends. So, yeah. Anything you want to see specifically? This one, like I said, with knowing as much as you do about Roll20 already, a lot of it is self-explanatory. One other thing that's really nice for players that we used to do is, let's go to skill. And I'm going to say, this character, let's say, uses athletics a lot. I'm going to drag and drop that. Oh, I dragged history. Oops, I scrolled. But let's say I use athletics a lot. I'm going to drag and drop that onto my toolbar. And therefore, I can just later on hit my toolbar. And so I don't have to go searching for things that I frequently use. Or you can even program. I think it's this. I haven't used the syntax in a little while. Oops, roll. Oh, that's reply. Oh, I know how to do it. So you can program custom roles. Let's say I want a modifier of, let's say I want a modifier of 6 on a die roll, and it needs to be a d20, right? So I can drag and drop it there, and then I can edit the label to say my powered attack or something, And so you can program specific things onto your bar and have it roll. And I'm just going to go and clear that.
Nice.
And clear that. So one thing I liked about doing that with my players is I made my players, when I was GMing, instead of letting them take for freaking ever, I would go, okay, you need to program that onto your bar and that onto your bar so you can drag and drop it off there. The effects library, so there's a party sheet, and the initiative in this is a lot more like how I used to do at the table GMing, where I would have everyone have an index card where I had some basic information about them instead of just the initiative order. I don't have to go and open a bunch of people's character sheets. I can see all the basic information I need and even have some notes on it for them. And I can have the party inventory set up. So when they get treasure, I can drop the party inventory. This is what you guys have as your party, guys. And then they can drag and drop it into their bag and it'll disappear from the party inventory. With minor glitches once in a while. I'll tell you that it does happen. But you create parcels, and for the parcels, that's what the GM is putting in for. This is the loot. And then when that happens, when it's ready, you just activate the parcel, and then it'll go into the party's inventory, and they can grab and move stuff around and take stuff as they need and move stuff as they need. So, and then you can see what each person has in money on their character. You can see and you can leave money in the party parcel. You can also auto split money for them by marking the shares and just clicking the button. And you can set up a party order so that you can tell them, set up your default party order, and later on when we need to figure out who is where and who I'm hitting in the face or the back, I know where to go look. And then here you can track everybody's XP. So it's got a very intuitive GM panel to me. Now everyone's different. Roll20 has its benefits. Effects, once again, also effects you can edit and add more stuff to. And so I have a module where we were doing a bunch of effects and doing a bunch of programming into stuff. So that's that. And here's an example parcel that I would drag and drop into the thingy. Go to inventory. And let's say I want this parcel. So let's close this parcel up. And look, there's the parcel. That's what everyone will get. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, that's pretty robust. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So this is why it's one of my favorite tools. When I do need to use a virtual tabletop, I defer to this personally. Everyone's different. And I just love what it does. It's nice. And it actually strangely feels like you're rolling dice by comparison. So I hope these little bits of demo. Do you have any questions before I close up my Fantasy Grounds?
Yeah, would you be able to show us how a GM would whip up a map and some tokens from scratch? I mean, just to set a little scene.
Sure. So the idea is...
Guys, sorry, I have to tab out at this point.
Okay. Bye, Mike.
Hey, thanks for running things. Good seeing you, Jacob. Good seeing you, Sean. I'll catch you guys later.
We'll see you later.
Yep, be well, Mike.
Hope I've been coherent and informative.
I found this thoroughly educational. Thank you very much. All right,
You're
talk to you guys later. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. So we're going to go into assets, and I need to find my folder. So here we have a bunch of tokens, okay?
Do these come with Fantasy Grounds, or did you get these separately?
Fantasy Grounds comes with very few, and so you'll need to input either through yourself or through their store a bunch.
Okay.
I happen to have a couple mods. So what you're going to do when you want to add any images is go in and open your assets, and then go open folder. And this will open your local computer folder for where the tokens and such are stored. Why that matters is because, that'll open your tokens folder, and then you can also open the images folder by going one step up and going images. And so you'll put whatever scratch images that you have into those folders, and then it will come into play in here. And sorry, I'm not going to show you my directories and such, but here's portraits, and here is some images. And let's see. Let me go and so at that point you'll be able to go and grab your image of whatever you have, and you can then go and set things up. So let's go to maps, and we'll go to one that's already been set up. Well, I thought I opened the Ruins of Aslan. Oh, maybe not. That's right. That was the other thing we need to do. When you go into Fantasy Grounds, I forgot one of the first things you need to do. You need to go and open your library. And what that means is you then figure out so in Roll20, what you show the characters is very limited, and you can't share your books and whatnot. In Fantasy Grounds, you can say, I've got these books, and I open the 5e. So I've got these 5e books right now. I can decide which ones I want to share with my PCs and which ones I just want to open for myself. So I go and click modules, and I go and I hit load. If it's an X, it means it's only me that sees it. If I have dragged and dropped a checkbox onto it, it means that when I load the book, PCs will be able to load it on their end. So I always like my PCs to be able to see the calendar, and I'm going to load the calendar. And therefore, when people put stuff on the calendar for their character logs and whatnot, it works. Okay? That's the first thing you need to do when you load into Fantasy Grounds. I forgot about that. So now we're going to open that. And now this information for the module is going to be loaded. So let's open a map. Let's open this map. So like I mentioned, pins. So I need to go and find. So when you go into this, you'll find in story, in the story tab, all this information, blah, 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 blah. But as you can see, this gets crazy. What you want to do is you'll drag this And I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to mess up my nice pretty map. Well, worst case, I messed up. So look, hey, I drag and drop it, and that drops a pin. And that tells it to open that. And therefore, I can find exactly what that room means. And you can make it shareable. You can make all links shareable. And I'm going to delete that shortcut because I don't want it there. But isn't that nice? So that way, all the stuff that you have prepped, if you have a handout, if you have a banner, if you have a graphic image, anything that's associated with that, you just have it in your story and then drag that pin directly onto your map. And later on, you just go click. Oh, look, there's all my stuff for that room. And here is the box text. And here is another box text. And I'll read it to you and tell you about it. But you also have it in front of you to read later. And, oh, look, here is an item. And later on, I can go and grab the parcel. But also, I can say, hey, I'm going to drag and drop that. You guys can now see that you have that in your party treasure. ID means items been identified, or item not identified, meaning if it's not identified, when you drag and drop it and give it to the players, they'll see it as a weapon. They'll see it as a blade, and they won't know anything about it. Once it's ID'd, then they'll know it's Blade of the Sun Lord.
Wow.
This little icon is going to be your best friend. It's lock and unlock. The reason being is when it's unlocked, you can make changes to this. And then when it's locked, you won't. And therefore, you won't screw up all your hard work. Therefore, it is one of your best friends, that lock button. So I like both Roll20 and I like Fantasy Grounds, but you can see the plus and minuses of both. And once again, it also depends on your availability and your desire for them to be able to access the game when you can't have the server on. What Brandon and I used to do for Fantasy Grounds is we would just leave one of our computers on with the server running, because once you open this, that's where it goes. And I did a little jumbling of going and copying files over if I needed to, and therefore be able to keep it on the computer I wanted. Any questions before I close this up?
Does this do the same thing with grids and tokens that we saw on Roll20?
Mm-hmm. We can do that, yes. Sorry. Thank you for asking.
Not that I'm real big on measuring 5-foot squares, but it comforts some of my players.
I get that. So let's go and open another one. This is a handout. Oh, very important thing. In Roll20, when you open one of these, it doesn't automatically go to, sorry, not Roll20, in Fantasy Grounds, when you open something, it doesn't automatically go to all your players. What you do is you right click on it and tell it to share sheet. When it shares, it'll pop up on their screen. So if I want them to see this cover, I right click and tell it share sheet and it'll pop up on their screen. And that's very important. It's kind of dramatic also. It's quite dramatic when you're sharing the villain's character portrait, right click on it, share it, bam. I've had people go, whoa, that's really cool. So let's see here. And we're going to go to layers and we're going to go to set grid. And then we set the grid. Oh, and I can even zoom in on my map before I set the grid. And let's say I want the grid to be this size. There, that's the size I want the grid. Unlike Roll20, where you have to fit your map to your grid size, this you fit the grid to your map size of whatever you want. Grid off, let's say I want the grid again, but this time a different size. So set grid, I'm going to set grid to that big. So grid is completely under your control. Mask, you can enable mask, you can disable mask. So enable mask, delete mask. I'm going to delete the mask. And when you mask, you can, reveal the mask. There in the pinwheel, you go to layers and you'll do that. So layer, and you can, oh, and you can snap the grid on. That's right. I forgot about that. So when I want to do that, and I believe it's Control. Nope, it's Alt maybe. Yep, Alt is draw your thingy. So hold down Alt and you get to draw your thingy. And then now I want to exit mask mode, and I'll just exit mask mode. And that's what they've gotten in masked. Or I can just delete mask entirely and scroll that back out. Bingo bango. Any other questions?
No, I don't think so. That's pretty interesting.
Okay. Well, and the last thing I want to cover is, once again, for VTT and such, it's important to have the audio-video method. And so there are a couple ways of going about that. You can go and do Discord. You can do Zoom. And if you need help with any of those options, I am the resident techie for BAMF, as well as a number of other people, to deal with some of these options. People have problems, they come to me. So feel free to come to me. And I guess that's it. Then I'm going to go take us off air, okay? Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope it's been informative.
Thank you.
Bye.